Hello and welcome to another episode of WCAT Chats. Today we welcome on Bob Rathbun. Bob is the longtime voice of the Atlanta Hawks and is smack dab in the middle of the second round of the NBA playoffs, so we certainly appreciate you joining us, Bob.
Reilly, thank you. It's good to be with you and always excited to talk about the Hawks.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. So let's jump right in and talk about the Hawks. This Atlanta team is tied 1-1 in the second round of the playoffs right now with a very, very strong Philadelphia squad. How did the Hawks even get to this point if you look back a couple months?
That's a very good question. So many things came together for us at the pretty much the exact same time. And it's been sort of a whirlwind ever since. We got to the 1st of March and made a coaching change. And not many teams that make an in-season coaching change turn their seasons 180, just completely flip the script from the way they were headed. And certainly Nate McMillan taking over as the interim head coach has driven most of this success. But we also came back to health. You know, one thing that we fought all season, and Lloyd kind of paid the price for it in a way, was that we had so many injuries. We had so many guys that we were counting on in and out of the lineup. Bogdanovich gets hurt, Hunter, Reddish, you name it. And we just haven't been able to have the whole group together, and we still haven't had everybody on deck. But we got enough pieces back, Bogey being probably the biggest. And once he came around and solidified that hold on the starting spot at the two guard, that sort of was the impetus to get our season rolling. We started to reverse trends that had hurt us badly in the first third of the season. We were giving away leads in the fourth quarter. We were not playing very good defense. A lot of these things changed when Nate took over, and we got the players back that we needed back to do that. So, to answer your question, how did it all happen? Well, it wasn't one big thing other than the coaching change, but it was a part of little pieces, I think, that came together at the same time. And then when they got on a roll, they then started to believe in themselves. And once you start believing in yourself and the success that you could have, it sort of multiplies and it has a ripple effect through the entire ball club. And once they got going, they really haven't looked back, and they've got a real chance to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Oh, definitely. And you mentioned the coaching change. What is it about Coach Nate McMillan and his coaching style that allowed for that 180-degree turn in the season?
Riley, I think the big thing with Nate, and I've known him for years, since he played at NC State, the one thing about Nate is what you see is what you get. I think this group of players at this stage of their career needed a voice like Nate McMillan, a guy who has been there, done that, particularly for Trae, because Nate was a hard-nosed, nails, defensive, grinded out point guard when he played. And I think Trae needed that. And I think he taught respect to Trae and to the team about how to handle their business, how to approach practice, how to approach games. To be calm, cool, and connected has been his mantra since he took over. He's coached a million games, so he's been in these situations. He knows how to run a game. He knows how to take timeouts, make substitutions. He's not afraid to change his plan if things aren't working. So I think all of that really is reflected in the way that he's coached this ball club. He's the right guy at the right time. And it sounds like a cliche almost, but I really do think it's true. I think this group of players at their stage of the career, pretty young, haven't had success, being guided by a guy who's had success as a player and a coach, just seems to be the perfect marriage.
So that McMillan line you mentioned, is it cool and connected or is it cool and collected?
Connected.
Cool.
What he wants is 5 players on the defensive end acting as one. And those are the best defensive teams. I laugh sometimes when I hear media people talk about, what's a good defensive team and what's not. A good defensive team can be summarized in one statement. Can you get a stop when you have to? If you can't, you're not a very good defensive team. But if you can, you're a pretty good defensive team. And we've been able to get stops when we need them to win games. That's how you win games, and that's how you win playoff games. And Nate has demanded that they play well defensively. Now, It's pro basketball. These are the greatest players in the world. It's a 48-minute game. You're not going to stop everybody all the time. But the strides you make as a defensive team, when you got a guy back there like Clint Capela who can rebound and anchor the defense with his shot blocking ability, Collins, the guys just feed in and fit in. And then you see five guys moving as one, then you got a good defensive team.
Yeah, you talked about Clint Capela. I mean, what a presence he has. Led the NBA in rebounding. Last talk to do it was Mutombo. I mean, talk about him and just how much of a difference maker he's been for Atlanta this year.
Every night when I say my prayers, Reilly, I say one for the Houston Rockets and one for Daryl Morey for trading Clint Capela to the Atlanta Hawks. I cannot imagine the people in Houston who raised him, his whole career was there, to say, you know what? This guy leads the league in rebounding. He's third in blocks. He leads the league in offensive rebounding. We don't need him, and trade him. I mean, it's like, so thank you, Houston. Clint Capela has gotten better every year he's been in the NBA. His rebounding per game average has gone up every season he's been in the NBA. What I didn't know about Clint was how good he was offensively with his left hand. He can score around the basket. He can keep that ball alive like no other. The offensive rebounding is not a joke. I mean, this guy works at it. He's amazing. He's got a nose for the ball. He's not one of those centers, Reilly, like in today's game where you think they're going to step out and shoot threes and, do all these different things. That's not Capela. He only does a few things, but what he does do, he's world-class at them. He can run to the rim. He can rebound. He can offensive rebound. He can block shots. He can D up his guy. All those things he does better than 99% of the big guys in the NBA. So it is a true blessing to have him on this ball club. We had to wait to get him. We traded for him at the tail end of the pandemic season, and his heel was banged up, so he couldn't play for us. So we didn't get him on the court until December when we came back together to start this new season. But boy, he has been a huge difference maker.
Huge difference maker. Thank you, Houston, once again.
Yes.
Another player you talked about. Yeah, thank you, Daryl Morey. Another player you talked about, or you mentioned earlier, was Trey Young. He really has been amazing. You saw it in Madison Square Garden. Tell us about his game, his personality, his leadership, and just kind of the player he's been for Atlanta these past couple of years.
He's really coming into his own. And I think the playoffs have proven that, weren't quite sure, as you would be of any player, Collins, Herter, all of our guys that hadn't been in the playoffs before, how would they react? Well, the one thing about Trae is that he absolutely lives for this. How old are you, Reilly?
I'm 18 years old.
18. Okay. Trae's not much older than you are.
Not much older, no.
He's 22. And to go into Madison Square Garden in a playoff situation with all those people screaming at him, spitting on him, cussing him out every 5 seconds, there's not too many of us that would not only accept that working environment, but thrive in it and want more of it because he lives to shut people up. He's always played with a little chip on his shoulder. He's always been the smallest kid, whether he was in high school or at Oklahoma or in the NBA. He's always had to prove himself. He's had to develop the kind of game that he has to be able to stay on the court. And now with Nate, I think Nate is refining his game to where you don't see him jacking up 35 footers with 19 seconds on the shot clock anymore. He values the possessions. And I think, and I don't know this because it's different for me this year. I'm a gym rat. I'm at practice every day, travel with the team, and all that's not happening this year because of the pandemic. But just watching from afar, it just seems to me that Nate has taught Trae a new level of respect. Respect for the position he plays, respect for the coach and the head coaching position, and respect, I think, for his teammates, that you can't do this by yourself. That's a lesson that took Michael Jordan years to learn.
Mm-hmm.
You can still get your points, and you will. You're so talented. You'll still get your assists. You'll still do all the things that you love doing. but you're going to do it with the four of the guys on the court. So I think that's very important.
Yeah, certainly. And Trae has been quite the player. And then in game two against Philadelphia, he ran into a bit of a hurdle when Ben Simmons made that defensive adjustment and was on him for most of the game. Coming into tomorrow's game, game three in Atlanta, how do you think Trae differs his approach and tries to get some more offense going if Ben Simmons is still the guy on him?
Well, you know, what did Ben really do? I mean, he had 21 and 11.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't shoot well. Now he blocked a shot. Big deal. You know, uh, he's 6'10, Trae's 6'1. He blocked a shot. Woohoo! I was not that impressed with Mr. Simmons because Trae can go around him pretty much anytime he wants. I think the mistake that we made is we got the ball stuck on one side of the floor. And I think you'll see that change on Friday night. Trae's going to have more ball reversal. We got some more tricks up our sleeve for these guys. So you'll see a different Trae on Friday.
I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see it. And going back to that series in Madison Square Garden, what an environment that was. And for a very young Hawks team to come in and just thrive, as you said, the way they did. Talk about that as a first playoff series for a lot of these guys and just the way they handled it and the way that they beat this Knicks team in 5 games.
Well, the main reason they won in 5 games is that they were clearly the better team. That, I think, is caught a lot of people by surprise. You got to understand, Reilly, you're here in Atlanta. You're a tortured Atlanta sports fan like we all are. And we just don't have a very good self-image of ourselves. We expect the worst, which is a terrible way to think. And the national media amplifies that. They don't. You think any of those people have watched the Hawks this season? Of course not.
Not with any nationally
We haven't
televised
seen a Hawks game since Dominique played. So they don't understand what's happened. They don't understand the turnaround, and they surely don't understand that we were the better team than the Knicks because they got emotionally drunk on New York's success. Well, you can grind out games like that in the regular season, but come playoff time, talent starts to take over, and the Hawks were clearly the superior team in terms of talent. And I think what happened in that first game is it took them about a quarter to say, we're better than these guys. And then it was just a matter of going out and proving it. We had a 15-point lead in game 2. And had we not gone ice cold in the last 5 minutes, that would have been a 4-game sweep, which really would have caught people by surprise. Well, gentleman's sweep, we gave them a game. But it was no contest down here. And that's, I think, why Capela said what he said about, we're coming to New York. We're going to send you guys on vacation, and it's going to be over because they knew there was nothing the Knicks could do to beat them. So it surprised a lot of people that haven't been following the Hawks. Mm-hmm. But if you had been, I mean, we're 21-2 of our last 23 at home? You don't do that by accident in the NBA. You got to be pretty good, pretty consistent. And 100%. The Hawks have played that kind of basketball. That's why they're in this Philadelphia series and giving them a fit. This is a number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. So it was a quietly competent team. And once Trae got going, once he found out they couldn't guard him, and they can't, he just went to work.
Right. And we talked about Trae, Bogey, and Capela a little bit, but who are some other maybe role players, guys coming off the bench that you thought really stepped up in that first series?
Oh, Kevin Huerter. I mean, this has been a massive coming out party for Kevin. He's playing so good. He hit his first 8 shots in Philly in game 2. Playing great. And I think we'll keep him coming off the bench, even though he played 36 minutes. I don't think Nate wants to wear him out at the start of the game. So we'll continue to bring him off the bench. Losing Hunter in this series really hurts because of his defense. Tobias Harris would be a non-factor in this series if Hunter were playing. But I think the big thing is Kevin Huerter. Wow, he has played so good at both ends, and he's our second ball handler when Trae goes out of the game. So really, really doing a nice job. Several guys have been kind of quiet. Collins has had a couple of good games, but John was maddeningly inconsistent in that Knicks series. He got in all kinds of foul trouble in game 2 and didn't have a particularly good game in Philadelphia, the last game out on Tuesday night. So, there's room for improvement there. But, Gallinari, has, he's a pro's pro. He's 6'10", so he can get in there and mix it up. You might see him guard Embiid some when Clint comes out. I think another guy that has been a pleasant surprise has been a Kongwu. Um, Limited minutes to be sure, but given the fact that he hadn't played much, hadn't practiced much, all these rookies that came in this year were behind the eight ball. But he's got a little juice in his game. He's going to be fine.
And with this Philly series, Bob, the Hawks have a really, really good chance of making the Eastern Conference Finals. What do they need to keep doing, but maybe do instead also to ensure that they're able to overcome Philly and make it to the finals?
Well, they can't turn the ball over like they did the other night. And I don't think you can do that against anybody anytime, but particularly in the playoffs. You cannot give Philadelphia 19 extra possessions and hope to win on the road. And still, we came from double digits down twice, and the last time to get the lead in the third quarter. But you just can't play with fire like that. I think we got to do a much better job taking care of the ball, and we got to do something with Embiid. He can't get 39 or 40 every night as a routine. Now he won't be the same guy down here, but he can't let him get going for big numbers like that. I think we'll change up our defensive coverages a little bit to show him some different looks, different people, and make it a little bit tougher for him. That Seth Curry is going to do nothing but shoot threes. Right. He's going to shoot it all. So it's kind of easier to figure out Philadelphia defensively. Let Nate weave his magic, and we'll see what happens on Friday night.
Yeah, best of luck to the Hawks on Friday night and for the rest of the series. Bob, let's go to you and your story and talk about broadcasting. What was announcing during the pandemic like? What kind of challenges and opportunities presented themselves?
Well, the first half of the pandemic, there was no broadcast because we did nothing. We sat and we waited, and I thought we were going to go to the bubble, and we didn't, which was very disappointing. We were one of 8 teams that didn't go, and so I nicknamed them the Delete 8, not the Elite 8, but the Delete 8, because we didn't get a chance to play. And then we weren't quite certain when the season was going to begin. We knew late in the fall that colleges would come back, so I had a few college games, and I did some soccer and volleyball for Valley, but we were just all kind of waiting to get going. But once we found out we were going to start around Christmas time, camps would open around the 1st of December. Then we started getting amped up. We were trying to figure out, well, how are we going to do this? We're not going to be able to travel. The home games we're going to be kicked upstairs at State Farm Arena. How do we pull this off? And the league was very good about giving us as many whistles and bells as they could, but you still had to call a game off a TV monitor. And I don't know your experience doing games at school, but I'm looking at the same picture that the audience is and trying to do what we do. And what I found out was, that nothing beats being there, number one. And then number two, the things that you kind of take for granted in person were not available. Like your peripheral vision is gone. I can look out of the corner of my eye and see the trail referee. I can look up and see the clock when I have to. But the one thing I found that doing it off the monitor is that you cannot take your eye off the monitor. I'm like staring a hole in that screen because I just can't lose the ball, and I don't know how the football and the baseball guys are doing it, where you don't know where the ball's going. But I know in basketball, I got 94 by 50, and that's the only place it's going to go. But still, you can't see subs at the table. You can't see, the interactions that you miss was tough. The other part of it, Reilly, was I've always felt like any of us that are in this position are conduit for the fans. Our job, we're the closest thing the fans have to being with Nate and the guys. So it's our job to tell the stories of the team and what they're going through and all that. Not the stats and all that, but just what's happening with the team. We flew to Denver. We didn't get until 3 a.m. because it was foggy and blah, blah, blah. And just tell the story of what's going on. we couldn't do that because we're not with the team. I have not been to our practice facility since March a year ago, and won't. Uh, the NBA has locked everything down because they're just trying to get through this. But I think those are my two takeaways. One, not being able to do the job you're used to doing, and trying to do the best you can. And then number two, feeling a sense of detachment from the team and the guys, because you're with them 8, 9 months out of the year, and we don't have that. None of us do. It's not just me, and I'm not complaining at all. It's just different, and we've had to make adjustments.
Yeah, certainly make adjustments. I know we can relate to that over here at WCAT. During our football season, it was pretty much all off of a monitor except for the home game. So that was just a really, really challenging aspect. But I'm interested, Bob, since you're not at the practice facility, not going with the team, how do you adjust to that? Are you calling Trey Young up every so often? Are you calling the players up? Are you calling the coach up? How do you
Yeah,
adjust?
the wonders of Zoom save us. But we do get some, because we're rights holder, we get a little extra, but not much, not much. We get a little extra time with Nate and some of the guys, Travis, if we need them. But basically, we're just like every other reporter that covers the Hawks. We'll be on a Zoom call today at 1:30 to listen to Nate and the players, and that's kind of how we get our info. Uh, I stay in constant communication with the PR office, uh, and like particularly the road games. I will text John Steinberg, who is on site, to ask him about, hey, so and so just rolled his ankle. Is it serious? And he can talk to the trainer, so we can kind of get a little more feedback than you normally would during a game, because if we were there, we'd just walk over. Our sideline reporter would go over and ask, but we don't have that. So a little extra texting and a little extra behind the scenes, but not much. Uh, these stories that you read and see, we're basically getting the same stuff. Um, the only thing I think that helps me get through it is knowing the team as well as I do,
Right.
except for the new guys. Uh, I've got relationships with them. So when we put the headset on for a post game interview or a halftime interview, like John knows he's talking to me.
Yeah.
So, Trae and Kevin, they know me, so they can open up a little bit more. Now, Gallinari, Bogdanovich, some of these guys, they don't know me. So it's just another voice in their headset. But we've been able to get through it.
Yeah, for sure, Bob, for sure. And one guy who knows you really well is your co-partner, Dominique Wilkins. Obviously, a great basketball. Dominique, everybody knows Dominique in Atlanta, just a great basketball player, but off the court, on the camera, what is he like? How's he like with you as a partner and as a commentator?
He is the life of the party. That's the best way I can sum it up. Neek is Neek. He is funny. He is always in a great mood. He is obviously a great player. The stories, the references to the past, and he stays in close contact with our current team. And, they all look up to him. John Collins, just adores him. They talk all the time. So, it's a very unique experience. And Reilly, this is, I'll share with you. I think if you heard the story, stop me. But, I grew up in North Carolina, and that's where I started. And I got a chance to broadcast Neek when he was in high school.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, he was born in Paris, and his dad was in the military, and the family was in the military. And then when they moved back, they moved to Baltimore, and they finally got out. It was just awful in Baltimore. They relocated to Washington, North Carolina, which is a little tiny town in eastern North Carolina. And their team, great high school team. I think they lost one game, his 3 years at school. And they played the team that I was broadcasting for back in my hometown, the state tournament. So I got a chance to broadcast him as a high school player. Later, when I was doing Old Dominion in Norfolk, Virginia, we played Georgia in the NIT. So I had a chance to broadcast Neek as a collegian. And then I have obviously called games when he was in the NBA. Not here. I had not taken over the Hawks yet, but later in his NBA career, I got a chance to call his games. and now he's my partner and has been. I think this is our 11th year together, something like that.
Yeah.
So we've been joined at the hip for a long time, and I think a lot of what makes us close is because of all those common experiences.
Yeah.
The fact that I've been here 25 years doing the Hawks games, and he's the franchise icon. We have so much common ground going back to high school, and guys that were in North Carolina playing high school basketball at that time. The Phil Fords, the James Worthies, the Sleepy Floyds, and all these people, were guys that I covered, when I was just starting my career. So we just have a blast together. And, I've heard a lot of the stories 100 times, and I can't wait to hear them again because he's a great
There
story.
you go. Yeah, certainly a special relationship you have with Dominique. Well, Bob, I want to thank you so much, and thanks to everyone listening to this special episode of WCAT Chats with Bob Rathbun. Great insights, great stories, and best of luck to the Hawks taking on the Sixers this Friday night in Game 3 of the Eastern Conference semifinals.
Thank you, Reilly. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bob. Go Cats and go Hawks.